Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fit Expo Live. I'm your host, Mareya Ibrahim. I'm the Fit Foodie and I'm the founder of Eat Cleaner. Head over to eatcleaner.com for all of your clean eating needs. But today I am really excited to welcome my good friend, Sophia Desantis. She is the founder, creator of Veggies Don't Bite, and she is the author, show your book, of burgers and burritos, vegan burgers and burritos. That's the official title, right?
Yes, that's the official title. Vegan burgers and burritos.
It's such a beautiful book. My goodness.
Thank you.
That cover photo makes my salivary glands just go on demand. And she's also a master of meal planning. And today we're going to talk about meal planning and how it can shift for your family or your specific needs, because we're all very different in our meal planning needs. So we're going to dive into that in just a little bit. But first of all, I want to welcome you all and make sure if you have any questions to type them into the chat box, and I'll be sure to put those up to Sophia as we're speaking. And also, if you want to share this would be a great opportunity to get your friends and family to tune in with you live. We're coming at you live so we can answer your questions real time and interact with you. It's not a pre-recorded message. This is here with you live and in person. So I'm really excited. Sophia and I have been friends for many years now. I've watched her grow in her craft and just hone it in a way that is so admirable. And I think the information you're going to be supplying today, Sophia, is really needed because people need some help with meal planning. So how did you find this niche in terms of something that you wanted to be able to talk about?
Well, I've started this whole Veggies Don't Bite brand a long time ago as kind of a side thing. It never was intended to be a business in any way whatsoever, believe it or not. I started it to solve a problem my family was having, which was switching over to a mostly plant-based diet for my husband's health. And as I made this switch, like with anything big, you need to go into it with some sort of plan. And I, being a type A organizer, thought that I got this down. This is going to be easy. I will plan it out. I'll have all these wonderful meals I'm going to make every day. And it didn't really turn out like I thought it would. And so I kind of had to take a step back and really actually kind of reassess the situation and what I was doing. And in the midst of all that was when I was approached by a publisher to start my book. And I was kind of thrown aback that someone was even contacting me to do a book. And I was turning 40 that year. And my husband's like, you got to do it. But we had babies at home. So I'm like, well, how am I going to do it all? And he's like, we've got this, I'll take the kids, like you can work weekends, we'll figure it out. So I started doing that. And as I was preparing my book, I knew that I wanted recipes that, busy people could make and things that you could prep ahead. So that's why it was burgers and burritos, because both of those things are things that we made a lot out of necessity and also because we love them. But you can prep them ahead. You can plan them ahead. Like burgers, you can make a ton and put them in your freezer and grab them, whenever you need. And burritos, you can make all the parts and you could put them together, and in different ways even.
And mixing up the ingredients makes them different every single time. I mean, I think people get very ingrained in like one type, but just by mixing up the spices, it doesn't even have to be traditional Mexican flavors in a burrito. Nope. I make Mediterranean flavored burritos all the time.
And same with the burgers. So like if you look at this burger, that is
it's fantastic.
That's my autumn ingredient burger. And that is made from butternut squash and like all these fall autumn ingredients that you would never usually think to do a burger. So I have so many different flavors of things. I had to get really creative. And like you said, with the burritos as well, you can do so many different things. Like I have this one that's a pad thai burrito.
Ooh, so fun.
So it's a different way to put together flavors. Like you said, you can use very similar ingredients and spice them up in different ways.
Yeah.
And but the book also has sauces, because I'm known as a sauce queen. I think sauce actually makes a meal, and I put sauce on everything.
Yeah.
Yes. But I do like a lot of the, as I create random sauces all the time. So I knew I needed sauce to be part of it. So every recipe, I always like have some sort of sauce that goes on it. And that's the same with my book. And the sauces can be used in so many different ways. They can be used to put moisture in the actual recipe itself, and then also be used on top. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where my brain started going to creating, and I call it a meal system versus a plan, because plans, when you make a plan and it doesn't go as planned, you almost feel like a failure. You almost feel like a disappointment. Whereas if you have a system in place, there's not really you're not really ever failing your system, because when you have the correct system in place, it's very, you can change it to meet what happens. Because we all know, especially right now, like last minute things come up all the time.
Well, all the time. Yeah. Yes. The best of intentions, I think, are great, but to be flexible is to survive. So I think going into it with some idea of what you're doing, but then, having the ability to be flexible is key. So wait, let me just go back to the plant-based thing for a second. You said your husband was the one that had some health issues. What made you guys decide to go plant-based based on that?
His cardiologist that he was seeing, actually, he was seeing a cardiologist at Scripps, Encinitas, and his cardiologist actually looks at heart disease, cardiovascular issues in a broader spectrum other than medication. And he likes to get to the root of the things. And when it comes to heart disease, a lot of it is tied back to food. And he treats a lot of his patients with changes in diet to help. It doesn't mean that everybody he treats is not on medication, but my husband was one of those people that completely reversed any issues and was able to be off all of his medication. That's amazing. Yeah, he was on medication his entire adult life until it started not working anymore, because as the number of kids we had went up, our stress level went up. Imagine that. So that's how it works. Yeah, it's a very, the relationship goes like this. Yes. So his medication really wasn't helping as much anymore. And so he actually started seeing this cardiologist. It was a new person he started seeing because he wanted somebody local. His other one was kind of a little further away. Mm-hmm. And, he told my husband, he said, look, we can look for another medication. We can up your medication. Or if you're interested, and he was so not pushy, which was what you need to be when it comes to changes. Yeah. He said, if you're interested, I have a few documentaries that you could watch that I really believe in. And we can look at changing the way you eat to try and help this issue. And my husband was at a point where he wanted to try
anything. Right? Yeah. Well, it is the true testament that food is our medicine. And no matter what we do, we can work out like crazy. We can, do all the things. But if our food house isn't in order, it's really hard to keep things together. So I'm excited for you to talk a little bit more about the just the process of how you bring a meal to life. And I think there are a lot of components. We've heard from a lot of people today talking about ingredients and essential amino acids and good fat. But ultimately, you need a way to bring them all together so that you get them onto your plate.
Yeah, because you can talk all you want about what you want to do, but if you don't have the right system in place to make it happen, it's not going to happen. And that's the truth, because most of us are, whether we're parents and we're busy, or we have high profile jobs and we're busy, or we're taking care of maybe an elder and we're busy. I mean, whatever it is that you do, most of us are busy, and that's just reality. And although, you have all these great intentions and maybe you do it for a short time, which is what I found with traditional meal planning is, it wasn't long term. So
I love it. So you want to dive into your meal systems?
Yes, I would love to dive in.
Let's do that. I'm going to be showing a little presentation so you guys can follow along and see what we're talking about here.
All right. Whenever you are ready, I am ready.
Let's do it.
All right. So
oops. Sorry.
That's okay.
There we go.
Are we good to
go?
We're
good.
Perfect. So I, throughout my many years of trying to make myself successful, I developed this meal systems masterclass where I love to share kind of the background of how I did everything, because there's always a reason behind everything that you do. So first of all, we've talked a little bit about who I am. I'm a wife. I have 3 boys, which is, why our stress has gone up with every child. But more importantly, I'm actually also a former teacher. So the way I learn and teach things, even to myself, is very systematic as a teacher. And part of my teaching career is I was a special education teacher. So it comes to me very naturally to break things up into little pieces and kind of look at components of things in order for me to find success. I'm also what I like to call a recovering meal planning failure, because when I first tried to plan things, it didn't exactly work out the way I wanted it to. So my meal planning story, a little bit of what I said before, is that when we switched our diet, I tried to do it all. I tried to be the perfect, like, I'm going to do these amazing recipes every day. I went onto social media and I was like, ooh, everything's beautiful and amazing. And look at all this great food. I'm totally going to do it. I totally can do this. Well, what actually really happened behind the scenes was that by midweek, remember, I've got the kids too. So by midweek, I felt like I was starting to lose my energy. I was like, okay, I've done this for a few days. I'm exhausted. But being me and being type A and whatever, is I kept pushing myself to keep going, is like, I can do this. Keep going, keep going. Well, when you push yourself and you don't have the energy to do it, is you burn out, right? I mean, it's normal. We do that many areas of our life. And then in the end, you feel like a failure because you're like, okay, I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. I was telling myself throughout this whole process, okay, well, I tried this. Well, maybe meal planning wasn't for me. Maybe, it isn't my cup of tea. Maybe I was just lazy. Those thoughts that enter your head, like I'm not good enough. I would see everything online and see all these other people doing it. It's like, well, maybe I'm just not like everybody else. I'm not as good at this. I'm not, all the things. And it really started to weigh on me, because being somebody who wanted to be successful, I wanted to make this work. Well, the truth behind that is that I was trying to live a reality that doesn't exist. So when you have other things in your life other than being in the kitchen, you have to realize that you're using your energy. We only have so much to use, right? Like we don't have this expendable energy. We're not constantly plugged into a wall like our phones. I also realized that there were so many decisions I was trying to make in a day that all these decisions were coming at me, and you don't really think about it unless you kind of take a step back, is all these decisions as a mom, as a wife, that you're trying to make a decision on and trying to make happen. And on top of that, I wasn't taking any breaks, because who had time for breaks, right? You're trying to do all the things. There's no time for a break. Well, here's the thing. Social media is one scene in a larger movie. And that's where I was going for my source of information. Is I would see the pretty picture. I would see all these beautiful recipes that everybody could do. And that's where I was getting it all and trying to make my meal plan based on all that. But we don't really see the behind the scenes and all that stuff. We use that and we drive ourselves into the ground, whether it's being a mom, whether it's being a business person, whether it's cooking, as simple as cooking, we drive ourselves into the ground. And if we don't force ourselves to rest, our bodies are going to do it for us. And that was the cycle that I was seeing, is that there was no time for me to rest. And so my body would eventually just crash and burn. And then, I can't do anything when you're crashed and burned. The definition actually of a burnout is the physical or mental collapse due to overworking yourself. Traditional meal planning for me was a burnout, because I was trying to do all these things that I did not have time to do in my personal life. It was not working. So I spent some time to kind of sit back and really look at it and see why wasn't it working? Well, it's because I'm a mom and we are just like built to try and do everything. So when I was sitting back, I realized that I have to force myself to rest and recharge, even when it comes to my meals. It doesn't matter if it's as simple as planning a meal for the week. You have to make sure that you take time of that week to rest. You can't do it all. You can't cook these elaborate meals every single day, right? The other issue was decisions. So I started doing some research on why all these decisions, what was going on. And I found that actually decision fatigue is an actual thing. It's research-based. And they talk about how when you have the decisions to make and they're increasing, the quality of your decisions is actually decreasing. So while I'm online and I'm searching Pinterest or whatever for all these amazing recipes, I'm being bombarded left and right with all these decisions, and I'm not making the quality of decision that I need for me, actual me. When you make a meal, and this is something that I learned as a special education teacher, when you're teaching something, you have to break apart all the parts of that one thing. So when you're making a meal, some of the decisions you have to make is what to make, first of all, because you need to figure out what you're making. Once you figure out what you're making, you have to decide on what you're going to buy, okay? When you're going to decide on what you're going to buy, you have to decide also where you're going to buy it. I mean, I know that I shop at 2 to 3 different stores every week based on the things that I'm buying. So it's not as simple as just writing a list. You also have to figure out where you're going to buy each of those things. Then within that meal, you have to decide what you're going to prep, when you're going to prep it, the order that you're going to prep it. You also have to decide how you're going to serve it. Do you have kids? Do you need to make it a little bit more, kid friendly? Are you going to serve it with a side? Are you going to serve it on your own? So just right there, you have this large amount of decisions that you're making. I also found about something called decision avoidance. And that is an actual real thing, which I personally experienced all the time. I just didn't know it was a real thing. I just thought it was me being lazy. But if the amount of decisions you have is too much, a lot of people just avoid it altogether. So that's why you have this situation where you want to make this amazing meal, but there's so many decisions in it. You say, forget it. I'm just going to go to the drive-thru, or, I'm just going to grab something, fast and easy, which is fine sometimes. But when you're doing that every single day, it weighs on you and your body. And it's also connected to something called choice overload, which is an actual other research-based phenomenon. There's a book called The Paradox of Choice, and it's connected to this whole decision avoidance, where when you have too many choices, it's just harder to make a decision altogether. So then you have this result, like I said, where you're avoiding making anything that's at home, making anything healthy and wholesome and nutritious, because you have not set yourself up for success. You've set yourself up for failure. And so therefore, you're just going to take the easy route and get that drive-through or whatever. So the question that I ask myself is, how am I going to feel empowered when I'm planning meals? How am I going to create a system for myself where I can feel success and I can actually feed my family without depleting all of my energy? I want to make sure that I'm there both with energy and mental health for my family, and I was not doing that. I was a mess, and I'm trying to feed them these amazing meals, but I'm a mess, and it was just a snowball of mess, really. So I created this meal system support bundle, and it's a PDF based, and I put all of my thoughts into an organized system to manage meals, because that is what I needed in order to be successful. It has 12 printable pages. It's examples of how to use everything, strategies I came up with to help cut down meal prepping time, and it's supportive to create a meal system in less time and with less stress. So this is what I found when I was creating this. I found that meals take energy, obviously. And I'm not talking about calories that you get from meals. I'm talking about the energy that it takes for you to create something. That seems simple, but I started categorizing what I was doing into high energy, low energy, and no energy. And high energy meals are things like you would find a recipe for, right? They're like things you would go to Pinterest and find this great recipe, and maybe there's a bunch of ingredients. Maybe it just takes, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Maybe there's multiple things going on at once, but whatever it is it takes a lot of your energy and focus in order to make it. I also found that there's things that I was doing that were low energy. So these are things that are maybe not necessarily a recipe. Maybe it's more of an idea. Maybe it's a way to repurpose your leftovers into something else. It usually takes 15 to 30 minutes, not a ton of time, at least in your active time. It could be something as simple as roasting veggies. Even though the oven is taking a while to roast them, your prep time does not take very long. So your energy isn't really focused on that meal like as you're doing the entire thing. And then I also found something called no energy. And that is the missing key that I think a lot of people don't work into their meal system by force. That is something like ordering in, takeout, meals you've frozen as leftovers that really just need heating up, or frozen meals maybe you buy for the store. And what I found out is that my weekly plan needed to have the combination of all of these. I couldn't discount those low energy and no energy meals if I wanted my meal system to be sustainable and allow me to do this long term. So the great thing about this is that your meal formula is something that works for you, but it also is, you can change it. That's the thing. So for me, what I found was breakfast and lunch, I had low energy or no energy meals planned for the week, because in my family, morning time is absolutely crazy. And in the middle of the day, we're trying to get a lot of stuff done. So we need something quick, right? So I would focus my time on prepping things that we could grab, whether it's smoothie ingredients already in a jar, or it's if you eat eggs, it's maybe making a bunch of hard-boiled eggs that you can grab, or pre-making breakfast sandwiches or breakfast burritos that you can quickly warm up and take. Or maybe it's something as simple as like a protein bar. Maybe you're not a huge breakfast person, but you need a little something in the morning. When it comes to lunch, I made sure that I prepped like veggies and stuff. Sometimes we do snack lunches. So we have the hummus and the veggies. You can even pre-do sandwiches that you can grab. Anything that doesn't take a lot of your energy so that you can focus on what you need to do at that time. And that was what worked for us and our schedules. Then dinners. I realized that I could not do these high energy meals 5 to 6 times a week. It just wasn't working for me. So what I decided was I'm going to focus on only picking 1 to 2 high energy meals. And I actually created a PDF guide on how you can pick a meal in under 10 minutes. So many times I'd go onto Pinterest and I'd get lost. I would be in there, it's like a black hole. You get in there and you're going, oh, this looks good, and this looks good, and this looks good. Where we need to make those decisions as part of our general plan quickly. So in my PDF guide, I have this page that helps you go down the line. It's almost like one of those, graphs you see online that says yes or no, and then you go to the right answer. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to that. And it helps you select meals, simple meals based on what you want. And it's very easy. I've done it. I do it every single week now. And that's how I pick my 1 to 2 high energy dinners. Then I also make sure that I have between 2 and 4 low energy dinners. And that's going to change depending on the week. If we have a week that I know is going to be crazy, I may only have 1 high energy dinner and 4 low energy dinners. It depends on kind of the week. But the nice thing is that you make this system, if you put the system in place, you can change it. There's no set guide. Well, what low energy is it could be something as a quick and easy meal idea, meaning when you're prepping your high energy dinner, And let's say one of the high energy dinners has a bunch of sauteed veggies for something. Well, you're going to saute more than just what you need for that meal. And you're going to take half out and you're going to put them on the side. Let's say it needs rice with that high energy dinner. You're going to make more of that and you're going to put it on the side. So you're not using double the energy. You're actually only using a little bit more when you're preparing that high energy meal, so that you can use that and repurpose it in different ways for a low energy meal. And
so can I just interject for a second?
Yes.
Because I think this is really important for people to hear. And I want to just underscore it a little bit. When you are planning, you are thinking ahead so that you're doing the work once instead of doubling up. And I think this is essential no matter what approach you decide on. You bring in these ingredients, and like, there is nothing worse to me than buying something and using a tablespoon of it and then trying to figure out what you're going to use the rest for and it going to waste. So this is
100%.
a really important way to be efficient with your ingredients.
Efficient, and because it also cuts down on, it's also a low to no waste way to make your meals, because there's no reason, like you said, if your recipe needs half of a cauliflower, well, you're going to make the entire cauliflower. You're just going to keep it for those low energy meals, which I have another PDF guide for that helps you figure out what to do with those ingredients. So it's great that you make it, but then you need to actually use them. So when you're using it, I mean, it can be simple as bowls. Like we do grain bowls all the time, where you put things all together. You have a sauce that you love and you drizzle it with some sauce and it's an amazing meal. And the best thing about that is we call these component meals, which you're using the components from other ingredients to create a whole new meal. And the best thing about component meals is that it works for any type of eater. Mm-hmm. You don't have the arguments of, well, I don't like that, I don't want that. In my family, I'm gluten-free. So it encompasses all types of eaters. If you have a vegetarian, if you have somebody who eats meat, if you have somebody who eats seafood, if you have an allergy, you have all these components and people can put together what works for them. So whether it's a bowl or it's a stir fry or it's a burrito or it's a soup, like whatever it is, it's not hard to use the components left over from other meals and create a whole new meal that satisfies your entire family. And that's what
I call them convertible meals. And you can mix and match, put the top down, make it into a bowl, like you said, or throw it into a little baking dish and heat it up and toss a different sauce on top. I mean, it gives you a lot of versatility, and it also allows people in your family who might have slightly different tastes to not have to make a completely different meal. They just get to customize their own.
Exactly. And on top of that, I mean, you can even do it as simple as taking those extra components. Like I've had, when I made once veggie enchiladas, is I made extra veggies. I prepped extra beans and rice. I put all that in a food processor. I pulsed them and I made burgers.
Burgers. Perfect.
And it's like, how are you making burgers from enchiladas? And it's really about using those extra components in different ways to make something new. Because there's also people that say, oh, I don't eat leftovers. It's like, well, it's not necessarily a leftover if you're repurposing it into a whole new meal.
Right.
And that's what, and so on my sheet, I started collecting my ideas of what can you do with these components. And, it's also another graph with, what do you feel like? Do you feel like a bowl? Do you feel like a burrito? Do you feel like pasta? Because you can even take those ingredients and, like you said, you can chop them up and make a bolognese out of them.
Right.
It doesn't have to be.
So Sophia, we've got just a couple minutes left. How can people get your program? And I'm gonna put the link while you're answering that into the chat. So there's actually an easy link for people to access. And I know you're running a pretty amazing sale on it too.
Yes. So So it is 12 printable pages, including the pages that I've told you about with how to pick a recipe, what to do with the leftovers. It has 3 different meal organizers because we're all kind of different with the way we need to organize things. guides to help you find the meals, strategies to help you cut down meal prepping time, which what we just talked about. And I also give examples of actual examples of weeks that we've done. I have a bunch of different people that have actually used this with success. Katie was one person that she thought that she was full on meal cooking burnout, and it completely changed her life. This is Allison, and she didn't even realize that there was energy you put into meals. And she thought that she was lazy, and used my system to realize, like, we're not lazy, we're just all different. And then this is Lacey, and that was the same thing with her, as she was looking to get into a routine to make her life as a mom easier. So I love all of you guys, and I love Mareya. So I have it for 60% off right now. The series of PDF, and it's in the link is in the comments comments below. So if you have any questions, make sure to let me know, because it's so important. I really am just really passionate about helping you guys realize that you can have a wholesome, healthy system in place that actually works, that doesn't burn you out. And it's really about that formula and making sure that you're putting your energy into these high energy meals every day, and making sure that you're giving yourself a break as well.
Yes. I love it. Sophia, this has been such a wealth of information. I think to even just understand the psyche of what we've been going through when we maybe didn't even realize it. And I think for everybody listening, if you are an athlete, okay, and you are here watching this Fit Expo live for a reason, I know you are, because you are either an athlete or you're a fitness enthusiast, you have to prioritize your food. And we all come at food from different perspectives. You may have dietary restrictions. You may be gluten-free. You may be vegan. Boy, the last live Fit Expo I did, I was talking to a lot of people who are vegan athletes. Sophia is a wealth of knowledge in this area, especially. You can get a lot of information on her website. Make sure to grab this link for 60% off and make your life a lot easier, because we can have the best of intentions, but if we don't have the tools, it's gonna be pretty darn frustrating. So
agreed. It was for me. It was so frustrating.
It's frustrating for everybody, and especially now when we're home so much more. I feel like the dishes are just like an endless sea. But to be able to let's be real. We have good intentions, but we're probably not going to make everything from scratch at every meal. Just doesn't work that way. We don't have a staff of 20 cooking with us. It's not a restaurant. So, Sophia, thank you so much for this practical wisdom. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for championing wellness and well-being in everything that you do. You are a warrior, and mom on.
Seriously, thank you so much for having me. It was so fun to share.
Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And everybody stick around. Don't go away. Next up, we're going to be talking with another nurse like Tanner. Her name is Bernadette Judge with Neputics. We're going to talk about the whole you and making sure that you are getting supported enough for everything that you want to accomplish in your life. So stick around. We'll be back at 11:30 Pacific. Let a friend or two know. There's a lot of really great information being shared today. You don't want to miss the chance to be able to interact with us live. So we'll see you soon.